if I play the first bar, right hand and left hand together, you'll get an idea of what we're looking for. So in that bar I counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and when I played my right hand notes, because they were all quavers, they were all eighth notes, so each note lasted 1/8 of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's our 4 on beats, our 4 main beats, and every time I counted and, those notes were said to be off the beat. Now you can probably hear there the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes are the first 6 notes of the major scale. It makes it really easy to understand, doesn't it? So you've got G, A, B, C, D, E. So button 3 push pull, button 4 push pull, button 5 push pull, G, A, B, C, D, E. Now the next note in the bar, this is the one but last note of the bar, is the D again. So it's button 5 on the push, and then you return to button 4 on the push to play B. So it's not push pull all the way through, it's push pull, push pull, push pull, push push. The last 2 notes are both push. So it's finger 1, finger 1, finger 2, finger 2, finger 3, finger 3, finger 3, finger 2. There are a couple of ways of doing this. You can of course press for each individual note. So you can press for the G on the push and then press again for the A on the pull on the same button. You can go to the button below and press the button down for the push and the pull. 2 separate presses for B, A. You can go to the button below and press the button in as you push for the D and press it in again as you pull out for the E, and then press the same button in again as you push in for the D, and then come to the button above and push in for the final note of the bar, which is B. Now I don't play this bar in that way, because what I tend to do is, if I've got 2 notes on the same button, like the first 2, G, A, push pull, I just press once, push in to get the G, hang on to the button and pull out to get the A. So I've pressed the button once, but I've got 2 notes from doing that. Likewise on the button below I get B, C by push pull of the bellows, but 1 press of the button. Likewise on the next button down I do this, something slightly different. I push, pull and push again. So I press the button once, but I've got 3 notes. Just keep the button pressed down and use the bellows, if you like, to sound the note. Push for the D, pull for the E, push again for the D, and then of course when I come up to the B note again, I've got to repress the button anyway for that note. Now let's understand these words up and down. When I say come up, I'm talking about the geographical position of your fingers on the melodeon. So unfortunately, if you head towards your lap, down the row if you like, the notes get higher, don't they? So the notes get higher as you go further down the instrument. So hopefully that's not confusing for you. I think it's fairly easy to understand that. But that business of getting 1, 2, sometimes even 3 notes from one button press, this gives you a lovely legato, lovely smooth, if you like, feel to your music. So rather than this very sort of jerky feel to your music, you've got this nice. The way you push and pull the bellows, obviously you don't have to yank at them, so it's a short push in, a short pull out, and the most important thing is to keep the instrument square. So when you pull out, don't let the bellows drop, keep the whole thing square, keep that left hand holding that left side up. So if you just let the left hand side drop down, okay, imagine that the bellows are arcing across the top there. That's not what you want. You want to keep the whole thing straight if you can. So, and then literally, physically push the bellows in and out. Push in by exerting pressure on the left side cabinet, the bass cabinet, and pull out by exerting pressure on that bass strap. I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's just listen to that again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that is our right hand. Right, let's add a nice bass line to this. We're not going to go all the way through this with the treble side, then come back and add the bass, because that's not a great idea, because the two work together, as you will see. Now this is what we're going to play with our left hand for that first bar. Have a listen. What you've got there is your classic pa, pa. Bass note chord, bass note chord. So what have we got there? Well, we've got the G bass and a G chord, a G bass and a G chord. So we've got four things we're going to play with our left hand. You'll remember that the G bass is button 4, outside row at the bottom of the instrument, and the G chord is button 3 on that outside row. So button 4, button 3, button 4, button 3 on the push. That's why you have to have the bellows open before you start. G bass, G chord, G bass, G chord. So you've got half as many items in the left hand as you have in the right hand, and this is where the first problem may occur for you. So what are we going to do? Well, obviously all those basses are on the push, but we've got a few notes on the pull there, haven't we? So what have we got to do? Well, let's just see how the two hands coincide. So with our right hand, the very first thing we play is the G, button 3 on the push, and you play your G bass with that. So that's your start. The left hand G bass and the right hand G note played at the same time. But then your next right hand note is an A. Now if you leave your finger on that bass note, listen to what happens. Now obviously the bass has changed to a D, but you don't want that D to sound. So as soon as you played those first two notes together, the G in the right hand and the G bass in the left hand, when you go to pull out to play the A in the right hand, lift your little finger off that left hand button so that you don't sound that D bass. Then when you go to the third note of the tune, the B on the push, you play the G chord with that, and here, once you've done that, make sure you've lifted your finger off that bass chord before you play the C note on the pull. Let's listen to those first four notes with the right hand and the first two items of the left hand, which is a bass note and a bass chord. Can you hear what happens there? Bass is very short and detached, very staccato we call that. So make sure you lift the G bass, lift the G chord, so you don't get the unwanted D bass and D chord respectively as you do those couple of pull notes, the A and the C. Have another listen. Not. If you get that, you know you've done something wrong. You've left your left hand fingers down for too long. And in the second half of the bar, the final four quavers of the bar, same sort of thing. It's still G bass, G chord again, and this time you play the D note with the right hand as you play the G bass, lift the bass as you play the E on the pull, and then as you play the one but last note, the right hand, you play a D, that's the D note, play the G chord with that. Now it wouldn't matter if you left your finger on the G chord there, because the next note is also on the push. I mean, if you had that, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I would still say lift it off so all your basses have an equal length. Like that. So all the basses are on the push, and so they fall on the four main beats of the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you like, pa, pa. So, like that. Please excuse me if I'm dumbing this down too much for you. I suppose it's from having taught children of junior school age for over 40 years. I do tend to teach in this way, so apologies if I'm insulting you in any way here, but I like to make sure you've understood it perfectly, and hopefully this will help you do just that. Right, so we've got our first bar under our belt, our first 1, 2, 3, 4. And don't forget, when you're counting, the 1, 2, 3, 4, they are immovable. Okay, so they're always in the same place, and if you've got notes that don't fall on those on beats, then you have to start counting and counts. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and obviously what we've got there are 8 quavers, 8 eighth notes to get our whole if we're talking in terms of fractions. That's the end of this clip of this tutorial for Speed the Plough for the blind or partially sighted. If you would like to visit my website www.daddylongles.com, you'll be able to purchase the full-length tutorial. Thank you very much for listening.